we have a small number of scratch building jobs left to do on the hull before we can prime it, and I'm literally meaning a very small number. One of the first ones though is the active sonar, which we believe was fitted around 1939. When I say we, I mean the people that research all this stuff. So when the bow was modified and given the clipper bow, that's when we think this sonar went on. Now this is 1/200 scale, so this is brilliant reference for me. We've done all of this now, the scuttles, the rivets, the weld lines, all of that's been done. Obviously we don't have the coat of arms, that's removed later in her career before the point in time that I'm modelling her. We do have one or two other little bits that we can do. This here is the boot line that you can see running there. So we have two good 1/200 drawings of these four sonars. What I'm going to attempt to do is scratch build them out of plastic card, but we're going to start by taking a drawing of one and see if we can make a copy that way. So I'm just going to draw around her. And I'm going to do this other one as well. And the reason why I'm doing both is because the drawing is on an angle, and I might need to use both sides to get a complete one. When you look at the shape there, it's slightly different looking than the shape there. So it's slightly egg-shaped when you look at it front on. Well, that's because it's slightly angled, I think. Whereas this one is more equal both sides. So I think I'm going to go with the equal all round. But let's just see if I can trace this out first. So I'm going to start with I'll do both sides. So I've got that shape there, and what I'm seeing is the shape at the bottom seems to be good, the shape at the top less so. I prefer this one on this side, to be honest. So I'm just going to, once we've made one, we can copy it quite easily. So if I make that a bit straighter and therefore a bit wider at the top. There we go. So let's cut that out and see how we get on. So where's my scissors? Recently tidied up my desk, which gave me a reorganisation, and as a result I'm having to think about where things are. Right, so let's cut that one out. Let me put my magnifying glasses on. Okay, suddenly it begets quite a little fiddly job. I'm just going to get my book out of the way. Okay, and now we can start sanding that into shape. We're not far off. And then the way I see it is the little square is another piece that sits on top of it. So, right, let's just... Not sure this is going to be abrasive enough. No. Maybe, yeah, that one should be. What you want is something not too abrasive so that you slowly get into the lines you've drawn, and at the same time using your eye to sort of correct and perfect the shape, if that makes sense. So that's it cleaned up. I think that looks pretty good. We've followed the lines, and then what I did is I turned it over onto the other side and just look, does the shape look right? When you can't see any pencil line and it's less busy, it's easier to see. So that looks good to me. So I can now use that as a template for cutting out a further 3. So let's get that done, and then we can have a look at the little square strips then, can't we? So what I'm going to do is cut off 4 little sections of card. 1, can I get 2 out of that? I don't know. Let's have a look. Yeah, should be able to. I'll cut that in half. Okay, this is 0.3 card that I'm using here. I'm just gonna... Right, so what we want to do is tape this down onto the card. I'm going to get rid of the pencil drawn sign, like so. Then I know that that's not going to move, and then I'm also going to hold it in my fingers, and we can cut around it, and we can cut nice and close so that we don't have to do that shaping process with everyone. We might have to go around and just smooth the edges, but we'd have had to have done that anyway. There we go. And then I can take the tape off the top. There we go. So that gives me the basic shape, and then all I need to do is go in and put the rest of that shape on. Really nice and quick. It's just getting rid of the sharp edges from the cutting and rounding it off. Work your way around. There we go, that looks good. So we now have 2. So I'm going to carry on, make the other 3, and then we'll have a look at what's next. Other 2, I should say. I'm changing card thickness to 0.25 now. It's just that bit thinner for the little squares that go get mounted on top. I've just measured them. They're 1.5 millimeters wide and 3 millimeters tall. This is also the right thickness card for doing the additional sacrificial anodes, which are these little lumps you get on the rudder that also should be on the A-frame leg of the propeller shafts. So we need to make 4 of those up, which we can do out of this card at the same time. So rather than trying to trace these, I'm just going to measure them out and cut them, I think, is my plan. So let's just get these offcuts out of the way. Right, so that's our 4 sonar bases. So what we want to do is get a nice sharp knife. Get this lot out of the way. So this is a straight edge, the original straight edge of the sheet, so I know that's perfectly straight. So we can measure out 1.5 millimeters. I'm just going to square it off. We can use the grid. Make sure that's perfectly on the line. Yeah. So 1.5 is there. Okay, and then from that point we can cut down the length of all 4. Which is there. So let's just measure that out. So 1.5. We'll just score that so that the rule doesn't slip. There we go. And then all we've got to do is cut that into 3 millimeter long lengths. One, 2, 3. That's 2 done. One, 2, 3. Well, that's not quite square. Try that again. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll just double check the length of the last one, just to make sure we're okay. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, slightly long. Okay, that's our 4 little centerpieces. So before we lose them, let's get them glued in. And then they're ready for installing on the ship. Let's get you zoomed in a little bit. There we go. Okay, so for this we're going to use extra thin quick setting. I'm going to position the part first. There we go. And then just dab of glue and let capillary action do its thing. Once you've got the initial bit of glue on, it's sort of not going to move on you, hopefully. There we go. That's the first one on. They look pretty cool, don't they? Next one. There we go. Just holding it in place with the tweezers helps. There we go. So I'll get the other 2 done, and then we can have a look at attaching them to the hull. Right, this might be a bit tricky, but we will see how we go. The spacing isn't even on these. There is a bit of a gap between the middle, the front forward-facing ones. So sort of either side of the hole for the paravane rod. So what we're going to do is sort of place it, hold it in position, and then glue it down. Bit of an awkward thing to do. So what you can't see off camera is I've got the book nearby and I'm sort of cross-referencing where they are. So sort of there. Bit tricky to see. Easier when you're doing 1/350 scale, to be honest. Right, so we've got some glue on. Yeah, I think that's okay. We'll just let that dry, and whilst that's drying I can put the next one on, which goes there. So that looks visually right. That one sits better because it's just on the curve a little bit, that one. So just going to put a little bit more glue under that one. We might have to put a bit of filler in that one a little bit. Let's just see if we can get it to conform to shape. If we can do that, because plastic card is easy to dissolve with liquid poly, which is why it's often used for sprue goo. So we might be able to just hold that in and let that dry for a sec, and that might just make it do what we want it to do, and then we don't have to worry about filler. Yeah, that seems to have worked a little bit, that. Yeah, so I'm just going to hold it there for a minute, so I'll take you off camera for a moment. Right, you can't see because of the curve, but all 4 of these are now on. I'm really happy with them, they look great. Whilst I've got the bow right in front of me, there's another little job we can do, which is to, we've got a couple of little holes to drill. Well, when I say a couple, we've got 4 in total. The first 3 are just below the rivet line, this rivet line here, and they are the scupper pipes. So basically it's an opening in the hull. So we've got 3 of those to do. So the first one is just behind this first scuttle here, and just below the rivet line and just above the boot line. So this is my boot line here, top of my boot line. So eyeballing it, it's about that. I'm using a 0.45 drill for this. We don't need to go through, we just want to make sure that that hole's there. So that's lovely. So we've got another 3 of these. So the next one is then just behind here, and it's just touching the boot line at that point. So it's roughly in an exact straight line. So I'm just going to put that one in. It's these little things that will make all the difference to the finished look, because that's another weathering point for us. So we'll be able to highlight the scuppers with a bit of streaking grime, and then another 2 scuttles behind that. 1, 2. Yeah, you're still in shot, brilliant. And that's bang on the line as well. So there. So that's our 3 scuppers in. And I'm doing them relatively deep so that when we've painted we can put an awl in and just clear the paint out if it gets clogged up. Right, and then the last one we've got to do is the torpedo detector. And that's a slightly bigger hole, so I'm going to just change my drill bit and then I'll come back to you. So for the torpedo detector microphone, I'm using a 0.75 drill, which appears to be exactly the same size as the ring they put on the drawing that's in 1/200 scale. So I'm fairly sure that's right, and it's about level with the top of the sonars, and behind the 8th scuttle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So about there, I think. So let's just put that in. There we go, that's that in as well. So that is all the drilling we need to do. Now there is, in addition, there is a number of eye plates dotted along here. They're tiny, and I I've been umming and ahhing about them quite a bit, and I've decided not to put them on. They're so tiny, and it'd be so time consuming to do that I've decided no one's going to know. Most people don't even know they're there, so I'm not going to do those ones. But aesthetically, we're looking bob on now, so I'm happy. Let's just, what I'm not happy about is not being smooth around the holes, so we're just going to smooth those out. There we go, that's a lot better. Yeah, they all look good. Okay, so I need to go and do that on the other side, and then our next job is some doors. Well, I was just looking at the positions for our zinc strips, our sacrificial anodes, and I spotted that my positions for the rudder is wrong. These not so bad, them okay, that one is country mile off, so I'm going to sand that off both sides. So I have an additional 4 anodes to create that I didn't realise I was going to have to do. I'm going to make them out of 0.25 card, so I need 2 for there. There's none on the undersides or the other leg, so it's just 2 outward facing ones on each side, so, and 2 per rudder, so I've got 8 to do in total. So we're going to cut those out and then get that sorted, and we can sort out the rudder. I'm not attaching the rudder just yet, but we need to paint the rudder up, and I'm going to do that at the same time as we paint the hull, so that we keep the same paint systems at the same time, and it all matches. We don't want the rudders looking a bit different shaded colour or something, because we used a different batch of paint, so that's the plan. So to keep uniformity, what I'm going to do is copy the ones that we've already got, and use those for making the others. So if I line that up at the top there, I can then just cut at the bottom, and that gives me my depth. And then I'll use a rule and get it on my grid. There we go, and then I can cut my width in exactly the same way. I need to square that up, so I'm just going to cut this section out. There we go. Easier to work with the smaller bit of card. So just want to square this up. Again, we can use the grid on the cutting mat for that. There we go. So we're nice and square now. Go scale it that way, and then if we do it underneath, might be easier. Put a little nick in, and there we go. That's our first one. So all I've got to do is make another 7 of those. I'll do that off camera, I think. So there we have the corrected position of the anode strip, the zinc strip. You can see that looks a lot more realistic now. We can just do the same with the other one. We sand them off and glue them on. So Nice and easy. Let's have a look at doing the A-frames now. So we're just going to place them on. And then once we've got the position of them correct, we can just dab them on with a bit of glue. I'm just going to get my reference book and shove that in underneath. Okay. Right, so first one there, and then second one there. I'm just going to measure the distance between them because the drawing I'm using in the book is 1/200 scale. So it is 1, 2, 3 from the bottom. It's a little difficult to do this, but that needs to come down a little bit. That's not helpful, is it? There we go. Bit tricky this job, as you can see. So 1, 2, 3, get that down to the bottom. Okay, let's glue that one in. You've always got time for micro adjustments if you feel you need to. There we go, first one on. And then the distance between them is 1, 2, 3, 4 millimeters. So we can bring that right down to there, and that should be spot on now. And that's our anodes on the A-frame leg, which a lot of people miss. I notice a lot of the time people miss putting those on, and they just do it on the rudder. Right, there you go. That's looking good. So I'm going to go and do the other side and the other rudder, and then I'll come back to you. So we have 4 of these armour loading hatches to make, and I'm just measuring it now. And it's pretty much 4 by 3, give or take. So we've got 4 of those to make. Shouldn't be too difficult. I'm just going to cut them out of 0.25 card. So let's get myself the rule and my sharp knife. Right, so I'm going to use this side because I know that's a square edge. That gives me a start, and we'll put that on the grid so we know that we're square. So if we do 3 to start with, I often use 5 millimeters in because this rule has a rounded edge. So 4 is there, and we need it to, oh, I've done 4 on total, so we need 4 lots of 3. So if we do 10, 11, 12 there, We'll just score that out. Make sure that's also 4. Four is there. There we go. So that should be the material we need. And again, get it on our grid. And make sure it's all nice and square. You can always tape it down if you're worried about it moving. And we need to cut every 3 millimeters. So that is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Someone once said to me, I don't understand why they put grids on these cutting mats. Well, I use the grid a lot, I have to say. So, I guess if you build straight from a box or you don't do scratch building, then you would use them a lot less. However, you know, they're handy for getting things square and straight when you're building stuff, so I use them quite a bit. Two. Now we don't need to worry about the corners because we're going to round the corners off in a sec. The door has rounded corners. Managed to move that one. Try again. It's a bit fussy, as you can see, but we'll get there. There we go. Right, okay. Got one there that just needs a little tidy up, so we'll just do that now. It's just got some trim hanging off it. So in theory that one's slightly smaller, but you're never going to notice. Right, and then all we need to do is round off our corners. So I've just got an 800. There's no other way of doing this. But we just hold it and take the corner off. Do it by eye. There we go. So yeah, that's it. It's just going through it slowly and taking those corners off so that we've got nice rounded edges, and then we can glue them on. So I'm going to do these off camera because you don't need to see me doing all this sanding, and then I'll come back to you. Right, so our little hatches that we've made, we can now place. So I'm just getting the, don't know what that is, just getting the orientation right. So it's about halfway between the top and the of the deck and the armour bulge, and about halfway between the scuttles. So there we go. So that's that glued in, and then what we need to do is make a hinge to go on it, and to do that I'm using some very small 0.025 square strip, and just cutting some lengths. They're about 1.5 millimeters roughly. And I'm cutting 4 of them, you'll see why in a sec. So we place 2 on top here to form the backing plate of the hinge. One there. And one there. Don't know why they're sticking to my tweezers, that happens sometimes. Right, let's just space those out. Now we can put some glue onto those. There we go. And then taking another couple of strips that are a similar size, place them on top at the halfway point. To form our hinge. There we go. Right, just need to position them. And when the glue's dried, I can always shorten them and what have you, whatever I feel I need to do. Now I've done the other side and they went perfectly to plan, but because I'm doing it on camera, I'm having all sorts of things with them moving and not going straight, and whereas I did it first time straight away on the other side. There we go. Right, we'll let those dry and then we can just come in and straighten up the tops and shorten the back hinges a little bit and make it look perfect. But that's how we're building our hatches, nice and easy. Now 3 scuttles back from that is a little waste chute that sits outside. Now just got some wood, some plastic square rod and cut it to shape basically. So let's get it the right way around would help. So this was a waste chute, so things that were coming from the mess deck and that sort of stuff that they needed to chuck over the side came out through this chute. The Germans do it slightly different to the British. British have a long chute that comes down the side. Germans, it just sticks out of the side and away you go. So again, we can tidy that up a little bit if we feel we need to once it's all dry. So the last thing we've got to do to add onto the hull is these little brackets. There's 3 of them. I've already attached the one on the other side. There's one that goes above each one of the propellers. So they're basically there for if they have to sling a new propeller blade on or something like that. So I don't know how easy it's going to be to film this, but we're going to have a go because this is facing away from me, which is the only way I can get it into shot. So this is the middle one.
and you're not going to be able to see that, so we'll put it there. So all I've done is shape the plastic card and drill a hole through it. There we go. I couldn't see the camera, so I don't know how much you saw that until I edit it. So I don't even know if you're going to see it or not. But there you go. They look quite cool, I think. So it's just another little detail that we can stick on the hull. And that's all three of them on. And that is the details done. I've got a little bit of final sanding to do in a couple of places, and then clean the hull, and then we're ready to prime it. Time to get our primer on. Right, we're ready. Having fully primed the whole entirety of the hull and the decks, everything's been primed. We are now ready to start putting some paint down, and that is a lovely feeling, I've got to say. So we're going to start with the boot line. And what we're going to do is we're just going to spray the area where the boot line will be without any masking or anything. Then we can seal it, mask it, and then we can crack on with painting the rest of the hull. So the paint system we're using, just as a reminder, is the Colour Coats paint system, which was formerly the White Ensign Models enamel paint system. And I'm not going to attempt to pronounce this. Those of you who speak German will be able to, but I can't. That is the correct colour for the boot line. So it's not the same grey as we're going to use on the steel deck edging that goes around the wooden deck. So we'll have to use a different grey for that, which is the same grey as the camouflage grey. Which is helpful, but here at the bow where we've got a white section, we'll see some contrast, which will be really lovely. We're using Colour Coat thinners to thin it. I'm using also some VMS Slow-Mo extender medium for enamels. They do it for acrylics and enamels, so make sure you get the right one. That just slows the drying time down, which seems like a strange thing to say about enamels, because everyone's got this impression that it's an oil-based paint, so it takes forever to dry. Not really the case, and particularly when you've got air rushing past your needle through an airbrush, you can get tip drying stuff still. So I always like to put a drop of that, drop or two of that in, and then for cleaning our airbrush, we'll be using VMS airbrush cleaners. For enamel, but we can also use white spirit as well, and we'll perhaps use white spirit for cleaning up any paint spills or drips and things we get on the outside of the airbrush. Now, airbrush, we are using the Gallery Advanced GHAD39, which is an absolutely amazing entry-level brush. It's got a 0.5 needle in there, and I've got the larger paint cup on as well. So all ready to go. I have done a tool review on that if you're interested, and then there's a link to their website through there, and also you should use my discount code ModelKitStuff010 and get 10% off at checkout. So if you're interested in an upgrade of your airbrush or an entry-level airbrush, this is fantastic, beautiful brush. So that's everything we're doing to put the paint down. So we're just going to do it freehand, lay it down and see how we get on. So my start of my process is to mix it. You never shake enamel paints because it gets all over the lid and you make a mess, and then the lid don't go back on properly and your paint dries. All that stuff. Those of you who are my age or older will remember from using Humboldt paints as a kid. So we will stir the paint, decant it into the airbrush, and away we go.
Hi, and thanks for watching. You can support the channel by hitting the like button, and if you haven't subscribed, please consider the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you don't miss any content that I put out. Model Kit Stuff is a self-funded channel, and I don't do membership or Patreon or buy me a coffee. So if you'd like to further donate to the channel and ensure the cameras keep rolling and the content keeps coming, then you can consider making a donation through my PayPal. You will find a link to that in the text below. You enjoy your modelling, and I'll see you soon.